In a 2014 survey conducted by the Center of Behavioral Health Statistics, it was concluded that roughly 1 out of 10 Americans are addicted to some form of drug. Based on this statistic, there is a good chance that one person listening to this presentation is currently addicted to some form of illegal drug. After a week of research and data analysis, I am able to speak to you on this subject with some knowledge. I want you to consider that imprisoning nonviolent, drug-addicted criminals solves very little in regard to this country's drug problem. To begin, let us acknowledge the fact that the use and possession of illegal drugs is a crime and should not be tolerated by law enforcement. However, simply locking up a drug addict does not solve the actual problem. Without the proper rehabilitation, once released, the inmate is likely to relapse and break the law again. I want you to consider that imprisonment is not the solution to drugs because the offender will relapse as soon as he or she is released. It costs billions of tax money to fund an imprisonment system that is ineffective, and it is ethically irresponsible to not provide the proper treatment for addiction. Firstly, those who are released from prison due to a drug-related crime will likely reoffend within 3 years of their release. For example, a nonviolent person is arrested for the possession of marijuana, the most common illegal drug in the United States. This person is sent to prison for a maximum of 5 years. After they are released, the only job opportunities open to them are fast food restaurants and grocery stores. Being imprisoned for 5 years is a very stressful and life-altering event. Being a previous addict, this person is likely to turn to drugs again to escape their reality. According to the National Institute of Justice, within 5 years of release, 76% of prisoners are rearrested. I ask you then, what did imprisonment solve? Perhaps if the criminal system took a more pragmatic approach to treating the addiction and not just punishing a crime, the likelihood of reoffense would decrease. Secondly, billions of federal money is thrown away each year towards the cost of holding prisoners. 1 of 3 arrests in America involve drugs. According to the Hamilton Project, about $26.5 billion a year funds the imprisonment of drug convicts. If the U.S. government focused half of that funding on the rehabilitation of the addicted prisoners, the reoffense rate would decrease. If less prisoners reoffend, that would save federal spending. Lastly, would you lock a diabetic in a cell for 5 years without giving them the proper medical treatment? The National Institute of Drug Abuse states that addiction is a mental illness that needs medical treatment just as much as a type 2 diabetic. Because drug abuse changes the chemistry of the brain and warps a person's perception of reality. Without the proper rehabilitation, the drug-addicted person will continuously reoffend because they are living with an untreated disease. Instead of just punishing the actions, wouldn't it be more efficient to treat what is causing a person to commit the crime in the first place? In summary, locking up a drug-addicted person into a closet-sized cell for 5 years does punish the crime, but it does very little to solve the actual problem. 3 out of 4 released inmates will abuse drugs within 5 years of release. Billions of federal money is spent on punishing drug crimes, and it is inhumane to not provide proper treatment for drug-addicted inmates. Although there isn't a cure for addiction, there are still some areas of our justice system that could be more effective, or at the very least humane. Perhaps if the prisoner is given the opportunity to rehabilitate and seek treatment for their illness, there would be less reoffenders overall. I have had the pleasure of discussing this with you because I have analyzed data from many credible sources on the drug problem in America's justice system. Consider the rights of all human beings. Isn't it everyone's right to be given the proper treatment for illness, even if that illness causes crime? I challenge you to consider this. Thank you.